Hello, 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 everybody. It has been a minute.
Oh, it's been a lot of minutes. Oh my gosh, it's 2024. Where did 2023 go?
Welcome to, I'm Ivy. No, I'm not Ivy.
Okay, I'm Calla, and this is Ivy. Welcome to Rise Up with Ivy and Calla. And good morning, I'm Ivy.
And I'm Calla.
And we're here to talk about where spirituality meets practicality.
Yes.
And as we just said, it's been a minute.
It has definitely been a minute since we've been here.
So much has happened since we last saw you all. So first, we are so sorry that in 2023 we were not able to come back. But as life has it, we both experienced the unexpected.
Yes.
And had to make the decisions at that time to take care of ourselves.
Focus on self and just be present.
And before we could help take care of anyone else.
Yeah, we got to take care of yourself.
And that's a hard one.
And we can't, we as mothers, and because I know her, we are constantly giving from an empty cup. Yes, we are constantly giving from empty cups. And we aren't supposed to be giving from empty cups. We're supposed to give from our overflow. And because the way that I see what happened to us, because we were constantly giving from an empty cup, universe, God, whatever you believe in, finally said, stop.
And, I think it's interesting, and I know we haven't shared with what was happening, but I find it so interesting how our paths within weeks kind of, again, we were going through very paralleled difference. There was a big difference, but it's still incredibly paralleled. And the one thing I was grateful for was that we had done our podcast. You and I had gotten used to seeing each other. We started seeing each other. We started going to dates at doctor's appointments. I think that became the funny thing for the both of us. But it was, I would never have wanted you to go through what you went through. But if I was going through what I went through, I was so glad you were there by my side at the same time.
Exactly. So, Ivy, what happened to you? And it's almost been a year. It's exactly been a year since. It's almost been a year since my diagnosis.
So I will tell you. So again, most men probably aren't going to want to hear this part of it all, but I will tell you, we are aiming this podcast to really embrace everybody. But this is real life. If you have sisters, mothers, daughters, wives, you could experience this. And with what you went through, they could experience their stuff. But so I guess the best way to start for me was, as you know, I've had a lot of female issues, cysts on ovaries and stuff. And I followed in a path that my aunt on my dad's side went through. And lo and behold, I was notified that when she passed away a few years ago, we knew she had passed away of ovarian cancer, that she actually had the BRCA2 gene positive mutation. For those of you who are familiar with the BRCA2 gene, they have BRCA1 and 2, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but there is a gene mutation. You've seen probably celebrities that have decided to make a proactive choice in handling things. And Angelina Jolie is one who is BRCA2 positive. And what that does is it actually increases the chance of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, skin cancer, and I think colon cancer.
Okay.
I can't remember, but what that meant for me was surgery to remove my ovary. It also meant a lot of testing. You went with me to one of our local doctors here, our oncologist here, and I have to have mammograms and MRIs and ultrasounds every 6 months, alternate. I have to have, now I don't have to worry about my ovaries, so that's not an issue. But I still have to go through an endoscopic ultrasound yearly to make sure my pancreas is okay. But what's interesting to me is when we go through this, we talk about, and we'll get through on yours as well, we talk about the emotions. Everything physical has some sort of emotional component.
Okay.
And so in a little while, we'll get through into all of that and what that meant. Because, I'm going to say this. The pancreas, remember, it's where anxiety resides. I'm not an anxious.
No.
Calm and cool as a cucumber. What else could you expect? So, that was a lot. And then my dad in the process had an ankle fusion. So we had to switch our living arrangements. So he came in and stayed with our boys, which my husband and I had a couple of, we had about 3.5 months in the RV. And so we were taking care of my dad and then starting to go back into, I'm going to say muggle life.
Not necessarily muggle life, a job.
That's a muggle. Did you watch Harry Potter?
Yes,
it's muggle
but
work.
It's not the whole life, though. It's just a job.
Okay. I went into a muggle job. And, a lot of, that's just been so interesting because I went back in and just took a really low-key, low-stress position without getting into details of where or what. Had an opportunity to move into another position. Unfortunately, is definitely not what I thought it was. And then went into my old career path. And Katrina, you and I talk a lot about lessons. What are the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over.
Yes.
Expecting different results. Well, our lives go through those cycles too. And one thing that I'm really proud of and excited that even though it has been a rather difficult time, I was able to see that it was a cycle. So, yeah.
So I will go back. Goodness, talk about cycles. So going back briefly about if you are constantly giving, eventually your body's just going to stop.
And I think it's that, and I think it's a combination of when, people are spiritual or however you want, magical, whatever terminology you want to look at. What we end up doing, and it is the cup that you're talking about, but we're constantly trying to make sure all that information is pushed out to people, and we want to make sure we're helping this person and grounding this person. And then when it comes to yourself, you kind of...
Yeah.
Grounding?
Forget.
What's grounding? How do you ground? Oh, wait, I'm way past the point of no return.
Right.
Where instead of catching it at a good time, it just keeps going and going and going.
You forget the basics when you are constantly doing for others. And what I experienced, I was constantly doing for others, and as you said, getting the information out there and doing the Reiki and being involved with so much. And then finally, I just had to stop everything.
Yeah, and I think it was good for both of us, and I think we were able to kind of communicate that a little bit. We both withdrew from that. I don't want to say spotlight because that's not what I mean. I don't mean it that, but that there were other people really coming up and starting to share knowledge, and you and I kind of stay back. But I think it's really important that you talk about what happened with you, because the one thing that I did get to see was
you got to see my boobs.
I did, and I painted them too. That doesn't sound right, but we'll show you later. But that didn't sound right either. But anyways, it was one of those things that I got to see firsthand. Instead of you, like, not just putting out, but you always would put out positive things or funny things, but it was all over the place. I got to see you really focus on one specific area and really be able to help others through their I'm trying to not say anything.
So almost a year at mid-February of last year, I got insurance. I was working a job and I got insurance. I said, so I'm going to do the right thing and go ahead and get physical. That's what you do when you get insurance. And so over Christmas break, I felt a lump, but I just dismissed it. and I felt a lump and I just dismissed it. And, in that dismissing part, I actually remember me telling myself, oh, it's probably a clogged milk duct and don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Mind you, my youngest that I have breastfed was 16 at the time.
It's a milk duct. You're just feeling, because she also is a newer grandma recently, so maybe you were just empathy.
Whatever. But the excuse in my head wasn't logical. Went in, had my physical. The doctor immediately sent me off to go get a mammogram. And that mammogram turned into, then I got sent for a biopsy. And then
that the doctor wouldn't let me take pictures of, that you wanted pictures. Yes. She wanted me to take pictures while her breast was being biopsied, and the doctor was like, please don't do that.
And he did. Yeah, he turned her away. But yeah, Ivy has been there for me. For the actual diagnosis, my mother was actually there for me when the surgeon, he said, yeah, I'm going to be seeing you for a while now. And so, yeah, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Luckily, it was caught early, and I definitely, I praise the fact that I do feel myself up often, and I know what my boobs are supposed to feel like. And I encourage everybody, and that was something that I've been doing over the past year, encouraging everybody, just that reminder, feel yourself up and don't wait on somebody else.
And men, if you're watching, this is for you too.
Yeah.
For the BRCA2 or for the BRCA diagnosis, you have a 50% chance to get it when your parent has it. Mm-hmm. We're waiting for my son Tyler's to come back to see how he has. My daughter had tested positive, and my youngest son is still too young to test. He'll test next year. But men, you actually have I want to say a higher fatality rate, because men don't think of themselves in that way,
right?
Because they don't typically,
because since it's called breast cancer, men typically don't have breasts, and so they don't think about changes like that. It's a muscle.
Yeah,
it's a muscle.
I think the one thing that's interesting in all of this, in both of our stuff, again, paralleled. Now, wait a minute. Let's finish with you, because you are finished with all your treatments.
I am. I had wound up having 3 surgeries, and I forgot 20-something bouts of radiation. I was blessed that I did not have to go through chemotherapy. But all the treatments is done. And I say all the Western treatments is done. Let me put it that way, because I've gotten several messages, inboxes of people, well, energy work. Why don't you just do energy work? Why do you have to depend on a doctor in order to get this resolved? And, my answer to that, and I go back to when my daughter was diagnosed and my daughter was going through issues. We had Western medicine that was helping her, and we had Eastern medicine. Energy work worked fantastic. We saw a difference almost immediately with my daughter when it came to with energy work. But I will not discount at all what Western medicine.
I'm so glad you brought this up, and I'm so glad we're actually having this conversation, because I think throughout our podcast, we need to talk about the pressures we put on ourselves the moment we realize we are walking in this path.
Right.
We're supposed to be anti-vaxxers. When I say this, supposed to, I'm putting quotes, because we're supposed to be anti-vaxxers. We're supposed to only eat organic or be vegan.
No alcohol. There.
But you're not supposed to take medications. And it's funny, I just had this conversation via messenger with somebody in our community. I want to say last week, and you'll know who I'm talking about. I don't want to mention her name because I didn't get permission by any means, but she was talking about, some more herbal ideas for medication or to help anxiety. And then in the end, she said, I decided to go back to my doctor and be put on medicine. So, you know this. So this past fall, I went through something again. I spent 4 days in the hospital with stress-induced cardiomyopathy from severe stress trigger. I fought it. I've been off of any anxiety medicine for nearly 8 years now. I was so proud of myself. Look, got out of it. I'm working on all this stuff. I don't need modern medicine. And the one thing was when I reached out to her, I said, I'm really proud of what you're doing because I did the same thing, which tells me it's okay.
Right.
Now, is it a lifelong process right now for medication? No, my doctor and I are working together a 3-month plan, but I had to get it in check. You ever have those moments when your house is so bad that it feels like you're never going to be able to get it together?
Yes.
It's that same concept. You get to a point, and if it's taking over, that you have to have some additional help. If what you're doing is not working and all you're doing is Western medicine, then you need to get introduced to Eastern philosophy like you did with your daughter. But we forget the other way around too, because we feel, and I say we, but, and I'm saying it as the collaborative. I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves and others that we look up to. Oh, whoa, you take medicine? You do this? You do that? Why?
Yeah.
It's, yes, should we be meditating? Yes, but meditation is going to look different for everybody. Should we be healing? Yes, but healing looks different. Sometimes the modern world has things to help us to start to ground.
Right.
Those bio blankets, I don't, I just know they're a bio blanket where they have the tourmaline and amethyst. Well, that's a combination of Eastern and Western. That's modern with an Eastern twist. So why do we have such an issue with when people bring both in? And this is not the conversation we were going to have at all. But I think it's important because there are other people out there that have decided that, just like we did, that we're walking this path. And is it what other people think of you? I do think there is that part. I was mad at myself for having to take medicine again, but I think I was more mad that how can we encourage a more holistic lifestyle if I'm taking medication?
Right.
But again, what's the important thing? What other people think of you is none of your business. We all have different triggers. We all are a different makeup. So the way I handle things and the way you handle things, completely different. But I think the important, 100% important thing is that you have your tribe, whether it be 1 or 100 people.
I realized during this time I had a group of people who left. Some people, one person I did actually reach out to because I didn't hear from them while I was going through, and they said, to be honest, I was scared. I was scared on how to treat you. And okay, it was good to hear their feedback. And I had to take a step back because I had a negative vibe, a negative feeling about this particular group of people who just completely dismissed me when I came out and it's like, I didn't understand why. I had a group of people who I was still able to educate and still able to help. I had my immediate tribe. Obviously, Ivy was there from day one. My mother, my family.
Tia, I know she doesn't like her name, but all of your kids were there. I can remember even your son, okay, you're the only boy in your household, putting a note up telling everybody to do their own dishes. That was to me, because he's the one that's the more quiet. He's the only male in your household. the fact that he did that, I thought that was adorable.
Yes, yes. And so everybody was there for me who I needed to be there, who I needed here. Everybody was there. And just like Ivy, well, different than Ivy, I did not test positive for the say it.
BRCA.
Thank you.
BRCA, BRCA.
I did get gene testing, and it's just one of those things that happen.
You know, and it goes back to, though, it's the emotional cause, or everything physical has an emotional component to it. You know, I don't know about you, but I found myself, and I think you would say this, I found myself handling things differently, especially in this last quarter of the year. I withdrew.
Yes.
Have you ever seen me withdraw like that, where I don't reach out?
To an extent, yes. Ivy is an introvert, and I have seen you withdraw, but not withdraw from me. And Ivy, there was times, there was a couple of weeks where we just didn't communicate like we normally did. And, you know, and that was one of the things, what did I do wrong? You know?
Well, you did. It was nothing. It was, I was withdrawing at home from my father, who's next there, from my kids. I was still there.
Right.
Going
through the motions.
I was existing.
Yes.
And I had to work through some things, as you did on yours.
Yes.
And to figure out, again, I, like you, saw people leave. I, like you, saw people become stronger in my life, and more important. And I, like you, started to look at things very differently. And when our thought process that we've had built or ingrained in us for so long, like I have been going through a lifestyle for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And then all of a sudden, and I had to look at things differently. I even came in and was telling you, you know, when you have an argument or a disagreement with someone, you can always remember every disagreement you've ever had. But how often do you really reflect on all the positive things? You know, our immediate tribes, you, my family, another girlfriend I have, they're the ones, you guys are the ones that knew and understood. And fortunately, you and my husband have that communication, so you knew what was happening, and you would reach out too, or I'd send I love you. We knew we were there, but it's a really interesting time. And you have to realize, so I'm going to tell my age, I'm that golden age until, well, when you're watching this, I won't be that 50 years old anymore. I'll be 51. But, you know, this 50-year-old year, I was like, woohoo, do you remember I was going in it with a blast I had? Like, it was awesome until it wasn't. You know, and trying to really, you know, we would tell people all the time in the shop, you know, it's death and rebirth. You're going to release those things that no longer serve your higher purpose, including friends and families and that. And it's fine when we say that when we're on the other side.
Because it's pertaining to somebody else.
Or we've already gone through it and we're on this side of it.
Yes.
But when you're smack dab in the flipping middle.
Life can suck.
I was going to say the same thing. Okay. It was a perfect word. It is difficult. I've never dealt with depression before. I couldn't figure out if I was going through anxiety and depression because I was withdrawing. So then I think I almost put myself into a depressive place, wondering if I was becoming depressed. But, you know, but these are real feelings.
Just because we are spiritual doesn't mean darkness. Doesn't mean that darkness cannot come in.
That we don't have issues.
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part. And I think so many people in, you know, that really, they do podcasts, they have shops, they do retreats, they mentor, run into that same thing. We're expected to be high, you know, and always smiling.
Right.
The happy police. But we have those moments where we're not happy.
Right.
We just have had the opportunity that we have the knowledge of what to do. We just have to communicate it. I will tell you, I did try one therapist through this whole thing. Do you know what the therapist said? Do you know anxiety is when you look into the future, creating different events? And depression is when you look into the past. That is why your rearview mirror is so small and your windshield is so big. How many times have we told people that? And I looked at him and I said, I understand that. I know this. He said, then why can't you do it? I said, I don't know. That's why I'm here. It's just an interesting time when we go through transition. And I think the fact that you and I were going through such parallels, even with the job stuff.
Yes. We wound up
At the same place.
We are at the same location, different jobs, but we wound up at the same locations.
Which is in Psy as well.
Yes.
So the three of us are back together. But, you know, we're fortunate that we really had that parallel. Because look, oh my goodness, you have a house. Even though we talk about that with the BRCA, men can have it. Having a house full of girls and the fact that ovarian cancer is so like it's definitely being checked and you know what I mean, is so prevalent with that you tested negative.
Right.
I mean, we were able to understand what each other's going because we went to the same oncologist.
Yes.
We were able to, it was to the point that the doctor said.
We actually had this, I think it was Ivy's appointment, and it was her appointment, and they scheduled me to come in the last few minutes of her appointment for a follow-up for me real quick.
And I remember our doctor, he looked at us both and he was like, well, I'll be spending a lot of time with you both in the next time. You know, but to have, I mean, I don't think I could ever be more grateful to you and to my family, but for being there and walking through that time. And I am grateful that we weren't videoing at that time because I couldn't even really give myself good advice.
Right. For me, I'm grateful that we didn't continue on with the podcast because I wanted to just focus on me. You know, and just focus on me and just heal my body. And I'm a Leo, so I want it to be stubborn, just briefly.
And I'm an Aquarius, and I just kind of walked around, kind of in my own little world.
But yeah, you know, my studio, I took the time to shut down my studio. My Reiki studio that I had, and it was kind of a relief because it got to the point where I was dreading going. I was dreading getting a session because I really just wanted to just focus on myself.
And I think that's what happened when I withdrew. It wasn't withdrawing, it was just I wanted all external noise just to be dimmed down so I could figure out what in the hell was going on with my body.
Now, let me ask you a question. You mentioned about everything physical, it has an emotional. Do you recall? Now, I don't remember what mine was. I kind of sort of, okay, it was my left boob. It's my heart. If I'm not mistaken, that is mother. That is
nourishment.
Yes. Why do you say it like that?
Nourishment. But I think, you know, you and I talked a lot about this, and your mom was there for you, and you're a new grandmother. And I feel like your mom role was all over the place. You're getting your son ready to graduate high school. You had, like I keep saying, baby Leah, and you had, you know, what the changes that your daughter was going. Two daughters that I know were going through. One moved out. One kind of did, and kind of didn't. And then you have your other daughter here. You know, I feel like there was so much stress of where does mom end and Katrina begin? Calla begin.
I remember years ago Carter is going on 17, so this would have been 11 years ago when he first got into kindergarten and he was in school full time. And I'm sitting at home watching cartoons because that was his favorite thing to do. And I'm thinking to myself, now what do I do? You know, I don't know, I didn't know anything else but to be a mom. And now he's in school, he's my youngest. Now what do I do? What do I do to make me happy? And that we talked about cycles, brought up cycles earlier. And now it's that whole cycle again. I feel like I'm not reinventing myself, but just trying to figure out what is next. What is the next step?
Well, first, you're not trying. You are figuring it out. You're doing. But I think that's a big thing. You know, we have two 18-year-olds that are graduating this year. Same concept. Again, you and I are in this parallel thing. And even, you know, when I was at home and I was withdrawing, I wasn't painting, I wasn't drawing, I wasn't doing anything. It was it was finding, did I even like painting? Which I do. Did I love playing guitar? I like it a lot. It's not painting. You know what I mean? And try to figure out why I was doing things. You know, we use labels, and I hate labels. Like there's narcissists, there's empaths, there's being codependent. And there's a part of me that wonders if I'm breaking the cycle of codependency. Because regardless, codependency isn't just with your spouse or your partner. It also can be on your kids.
Yeah.
And we become codependent. And so I think we're both going through these moments of, wait a minute, I wasn't codependent. I've always been an independent woman doing all this other stuff. Like you are like this superwoman. I mean, I can remember when we first started to get to know each other 7 years ago, you were taking one here and then taking that here and picking somebody up at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, how the heck does she do it? You were like superwoman. But it goes back to, we have these connections, and I don't want to call it codependency anymore, but it is we define ourselves by being a mom and being a hands-on mom. And, you know, the boys ask me, so what rules are different since we're 18? Well, really nothing, since we're still in high school. When we're out of high school, we'll have that discussion. One of them said, can I spend the night at a girl's house? No, we don't do that, you know. But it's not little Leah. And even at that time, prior to that, you had taken on so much of that. So you were mom and active Luna and active that. There's just so much. And we keep that noise going because it distracts us. Why do we help each other? Or why do we want to help others? Besides wanting and the loving, but if I help you in your need, I'm not focused here.
On this.
So, you know, it's just really, really interesting to see how the last year went. But I think no. I know. So we're working on verbiage. It's going to allow us to bring you all a better podcast.
Yes.
A more authentic podcast.
I wouldn't say a more authentic. We were authentic.
We were authentically goofy, but I think it's going to go a little bit deeper. You know, I think you and I have always had this way of being able to share our stuff without getting too deep. But we're going to open it up. But we're not even just going to do that for just us. We have a season that's going to be so exciting.
We have some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful guests that are going to be making an appearance.
And next week, I will tell you, I'm so looking forward to Jamie Lee Valace host being I know she's going to be like, what did you just stumbled all over my name? I had the opportunity to meet her, I want to say 3 years ago, at a wedding that my husband and I attended, and she and I immediately like gravitated to each other. And you haven't had the opportunity to talk with her, meet her yet. When you talk about people going through the same stuff, so I don't want to get into her story because that's hers to share. But when I was going through stuff with Josh, she, just like you, understood with that autonomic, the pot stuff and everything. You guys were both able to understand it. But again, it goes to looking at, she is one of the, I absolutely am always amazed by her. She's just beautiful and well-spoken and always in this great space. And we had a similar talk because she's like, just like us. You know, we're empathic and we're sensitive, but we're also responsible to put everything together and keep everything. And there are those moments that it goes like this.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to her. Dawn is going to be one of my favorites.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoy. She makes tasty treats. I don't know if we could get some. We'll have to see.
Dawn, if you're watching, we need to try some tasty treats.
But yeah, we're not going to be name called. We're not going to bring out any names.
Yeah,
okay,
I just brought up Dawn and Jamie, but we're not going to tell you because each week, and they're not. I mean, we do have one person local that we're going to, but it's time to really see what the rest of the world has to show us. So, you'll be surprised for season 2. We got some good tricks up our sleeve. So, how is this going to work? Because last season, season 1, we're on 4 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Now we have jobs.
Yes.
Now so we are not getting together every day.
Yeah, we're not getting together. We're going to release on Wednesday morning.
Now, that is on StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon.
Not to dismiss anything that Ivy just said, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can listen to us. Rise Up with Ivy and Calla.
Where spirituality meets practicality.
You can even, well, she's sitting behind me, but you can even say Alexa. Please play Rise Up with Ivy and Calla. I didn't say it because then she'll just start talking. And so.
Oh, that's funny. Can you do that with Siri?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't do all of that.
So, on that note.
So, 5:30 in the morning doesn't mean you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to watch this podcast. Because you know what? To be honest with you, I'm not going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. But it'll be on Wednesday, 1/24/24.
And we're excited.
Very excited. Now, for those who watch and like to leave messages or ask questions, Calla and I will be answering them.
Yes.
I will actually be monitoring it all day, Wednesday, off and on. Mm-hmm. So we will be monitoring any questions. What we do want you to do, let us know, because every other week at this point, we're going to have you and I talking and doing some stuff. So let us know of topics you'd like to discuss, issues that you've encountered, and successes that you've encountered, and how you overcame the obstacle for the success. Mm-hmm. We want this to be something that we're sharing with one another because we're here to learn from you as much as we're here to share to you.
Share our podcast. Wherever you are listening to it, share it. Let your friends know.
And we're going to keep it right around 35 to 45 minutes.
35 to 45 minutes.
That way, when you're getting ready for work in the morning, you're driving to work, you're on your way home, you're at the office.
You can rise up with Ivy and Calla.
Where spirituality meets practicality.
You all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.
Many blessings.
Bye-bye.